Hi, yeah, I'm still here, still alive, and I'm gonna do something with this channel. I'm gonna reboot it, but because before it was a bit more vloggy and talking about my personal life, and it's been a while since I've done that, I was gonna do this sort of before the reboot so I could catch you up with what happened in the frankly years since I've posted on this channel. I know it's appalling. I have actually recorded videos that never quite made it onto here. I get overly distracted by editing. It's not my strong suit. But that's what we're going to be covering. Okay, so first up we have the reboot. I'm not really announcing what that's going to be. It's kind of a secret project. But my plan is to have a whopping 4 days of one video a day at just before I appear at Summer in the City, so that I have that all out there before. Then after that, that project hopefully should be updating every other week. I'm setting myself that as a goal, and I'm trying to commit to that. So hopefully you'll get videos of that new project every other week. But that's not really what I'm here to talk about. So now let's move on to what I've been doing since then. Basically, two things have been happening. A, I've been doing NerdCubed games, and B, I've been dealing with antidepressants and some of those hassles. So let's start off with the games, because that's an easier story to tell. So, why aren't there any games out from NerdCubed Games yet when you've been working on it for years is probably what you're currently asking. And the answer is, we have 3 people working on the project, one of which is Dan, who is a very, very busy person. The 2 main people behind sort of the programming and putting everything together are me and Dan, who don't know how to make computer games and are currently learning. And really, the best person we have to actually make a computer game is the person we've stuck on art, which is Rebecca. I think things are starting to come together. A lot of the beginning was fraught with us being YouTubers, which as a YouTuber, you tend to go, hey, let's do a project, and then have it done. And if it takes too long, you start to get overly critical and not comfortable with it. And obviously us learning meant that we started quite a few projects where we took too long working out what the project was. And then by the time we worked out what it should be, we weren't confident enough to move forward with it, and then jumped around. There were lots of promising projects, and we'll probably come back to most of them because most of them were really good. The only one that really I hated was the YouTube simulator, which fortunately I've now managed to talk Dan into believing it was awful, and it was awful. Like all of the rest of our games, I can't tell you too many details because we're still working on them, and as I said, we will probably go back to them. But all of our games sort of don't fit into conventional tactics. We try to take the sort of double fine approach of here is a world you have never heard about before, and there aren't other games about that thing, and try to come up with interesting mechanics as well for these things. And YouTube Simulator really stuck out as being, this is a world you totally know, and these are mechanics you totally know. And occasionally some of our other games perhaps do have mechanics that have been used elsewhere. Not all of them, but a few of them do. But the worlds have always been very vibrant and different, and so I didn't like that. It wasn't very us. So I'm pretty glad we got rid of it. In fact, the only bit of it I did like was the bit that I was writing, which was the ending, which was after you hit 7 billion subscribers, or whatever the world's population is, you actually ended up with sort of a hidden ending of here's an extra where you can run for president of the world, and the whole world follows you. And then at that point the whole game changes into trying to run a world, but because you are not a politician and you're a person who's in the media, you don't know what to do, and you fail and you totally destroy the world. And the moral of the game was supposed to be that you came away going, hey, you know what? Just because I find them entertaining doesn't mean I should follow all of their political values, or just because they're entertaining doesn't mean I should look up to them. This is particularly aimed really more at people like footballers who sort of do very good at being footballers, and if you want to listen to someone about football, a footballer's a good person. But when they start chipping in on things like politics, or you look at some of their lifestyles, they should not be your role models on how should I live my life. They are not very good role models at that. They're very good role models at how to become a good footballer. That's not a pick at them, that's just sort of something that's true. And that's also true sometimes for YouTubers. Like, there are many YouTubers who are good at what they do, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you should be listening to everything. I think it's a little bit less true of YouTubers because obviously a part of what YouTube is to have a dialogue with your audience, which isn't necessarily true of other celebrities. But that was the moral of the story, and that was the only bit that I kind of liked, was the impossible game where it was all going wrong. But again, that was one of the reasons why the whole project fell apart, because it was like, cool, we want the first part of the game to play like this, and then we want a totally different set of mechanics for a secret ending that most people won't get to. Because those are the sort of crazy things that are happening and still happen on some of our projects. The ones going forward at the moment, I've been working on a project almost by myself for a while, and that game is getting quite close to being finished and is looking great. There's another project we're working all together on as a team, and that's looking like it's shaping up. And as I said, we've got so many sort of in the background projects, which I'm excited about, but then I get worried every now and then. Dan suddenly turns up and goes, "No, it needs to be open world," and I'm like, "We're 3 people and we haven't made one game yet. Can it not be open world?" You will find out in several years whether or not I won that argument. I suspect I won't. Anyway, that's probably more than I'm allowed to talk to you about. So now let's move the talk on to talking about my mental health. So several years ago, I decided to try antidepressants, and the name is misleading because antidepressants have not done the job of being the opposite of depression. They haven't stopped me from being depressed. I went through at least a year of going, let's try this, that's not working, let's try this, that's not working, let's try this, that's not working, time and time again. And that took me at least a year, maybe a year and a half, before I finally found something that worked. And then, so here's what happened, and I didn't understand it at the time, and looking back at it, it was one of those things where it was like, oh, obviously. So I finally found an antidepressant that worked, as in, really it's more of an antidepressant, depression suppressor. If depression goes from 0 to 10, and 0 is I'm not depressed, and 10 is I've killed myself, then I spend most of my life sort of around a 6 or a 7, but occasionally I can drop down to 8s or 9s. The antidepressant basically stopped me from going below an 8, which was nice. It just lost some of those 9s, but that was at least a step in the right direction. It sort of stopped me from getting right to the edges, and then after taking that drug for a long time, I finally managed to convince my GP to up that dosage, and from then on, I was really not dropping below about a 6.5, something like that. So that I then stayed on for probably a year. What also happened when I went on this drug was I got fat. Yes, my friends, and when I say I got fat, I mean I went up 3 trouser sizes in a month. However, I had not pegged that this was connected to the antidepressant change, because so far none of the other antidepressants had been giant weight gain as side effects. So I had sort of almost trained myself out of thinking that was the case. Anyway, so then, even though I wasn't depressed, and you'd have thought, hey, that's the perfect time to, well, I was still depressed. Even though I wasn't having the absolutely awful days, and you'd have thought that's the right time to try and, do more videos on your own channel, I was getting very worried because my weight had jumped out of nowhere. And then on top of that, I was starting to get some pains, which turned out to be from a vitamin D deficiency. But chest pains and arm pains is also a sign that you might be having a heart attack. Seeing as my dad died from having a heart attack at a young age, I was seriously worried about my health. And I pretty much spent the next 3/4 of a year trying to get my health in check and trying to work out what was going wrong with me, and basically coming up with all of the answers I now have, which is it was a vitamin D deficiency and not the start of a heart attack. And and eventually, after that amount of time, I upped my dosage on my. Basically, I did a lot of exercise. Well, a lot for me anyway. I used a gym. I had a gym in the building, so that helped. I could not do public gyms. Like, I'm just so self-conscious during it that I kind of need an empty or almost empty gym to do anything. But yeah, so I spent all of that time in the gym, and I managed to go down 1 trouser size. So I was now only 2 trouser sizes up from where I wanted to be and where I had been a year ago. And then, which of course is really annoying because I'm there going, I am the healthiest I have ever been, and I'm a giant fatty. And there's nothing wrong with being a fatty, but I did not want to be one, and I was annoyed at that. But then I upped my dosage on my antidepressants. I went up that trouser size I'd lost, and I went, oh, because this coincides with me changing my diet, and I went on those pills at the same time that I also went heavy. These are probably connected, obviously. And then I worried a little bit less about me putting on weight, because me putting on weight for no reason is something that scares me. Me putting on weight because I am taking antidepressants is something I can understand and have come to terms with. I still should be doing more exercise than I am, and that's still something I need to work on. But that's not as big a focus as it was during that time. So that was sort of a big scare for me. So that has sort of been that journey. I have now quite recently got myself on yet another form of antidepressants. I basically had the one that I had before and another one, and they combo well together. That is a whole story that I don't think I'm ready to tell yet as to why I'm on both of those, but I am, and they've been doing a really pretty good job. And on top of that, that all started happening around February, and I started going out and leaving the house and seeing friends and making new friends, which for me is just crazy, because it's like, I mean, in previous years, I perhaps left the house maybe 10 times a year. Like, obviously I go out more than 10 times a year because I have to go to the supermarket. But outside of going to the supermarket, sort of going out to have fun or meet people, 10 times a year sounds like that's probably what I was doing. Whereas now, I'm leaving the house probably 5 times a month, which means, you know, in 2 months I'm doing what it used to take me 12 months to do, and I'm not hating it. So that's good. I'm doing even more work because the antidepressants are helping. So I'm probably in the best place I've been in a while. Like, my current antidepressants are almost doing the job. They're really just holding me on that scale of 0 to 10. They're holding me at about a 3, which is pretty good for me. Like, that's not just stopping me from having bad days, it's one where it's sort of stopping me from having generally bad days. It's still not the same as being at 0. I'm spending a lot of time at 3. But being at 3, it's, as I say to my friends and to my parents, my mum, it's sort of, this is the best depression I've ever had. I mean, it sucks. It's depression. But as far as depression goes, this is the stuff that you want to be on. For some reason, it's almost entirely turned off the self-hate part of me. So I'm not there going, oh, I'm terrible, I'm awful. That part's kind of gone away. I still have I'm feeling crap, and even though I'm going off and doing things that should make me happy, it doesn't make me as happy as it should. And feeling like I just don't have the energy to do anything. But those are becoming less, and that allows me to fight it more, and I'm making momentum. For the first time in a long time, I'm looking forward and have hope, and that's why I'm rebooting the channel, and I think that's great. I mean, it is great. But I thought I'd share that story because none of that story... I've recorded several videos where it's like, oh, I'll go through and tell you all this information, and then me being in the dark, depressive bit, sort of, you know, the second you finish something, it's like, oh no, and overly criticizing it, and it just doesn't quite make its way out. So, yes, exciting things are coming. I'm doing as well as I possibly can. Maybe brighter things are in the future, but even just staying here is worlds better than where I have been. So yeah,